Okay, today we're going to talk about find the rule. So this is a function machine. And so whatever you're going to take some numbers and we're going to put them in the function machine. So we'll put it in the function machine. And then whatever the rule is, it will apply that rule and the number will come out having been applied by whatever rule we have in there. So let's get going. So first of all, let's say that our rule is times 5. Okay, so let's make our rule times 5. So if we take 5 and put it in the function machine, right? If it goes in, we now are thinking, what is 5 times 5? And it equals 25. So when 5 goes through here, 5 times 5 then comes out as 25. Okay, so that's when it goes through the function machine. Now let's say that we are going to go backwards through our function machine. So if we are going backwards through our function machine, it's going to have us go through backwards, which means we're going to have to do the inverse operation or the opposite operation. The math term for that is going to be inverse. So if I put the 30 through the function machine backwards, instead of multiplying, I lost my times 5. There we go. Instead of multiplying by 5, since I'm going backwards through here, I'm going to end up dividing by 5. So 30 divided by 5 would be 6, right? So we would have 30 divided by 5 equals 6. So when that comes through backwards through here, it's going to be 6, okay? So that's how you can use your function machine either forwards or backwards. Now, multiplication is not the only way that we can use a function machine. We can also use it with addition or subtraction or division, any of those things. So if let's say we took 45 and put this in through a function machine, and if the rule was plus 4, we would take 45 plus 4. Now, never be afraid to do a little side math if you need to. So 45 plus 4 would be 49. So when 45 comes through here, it would come out as 49, okay? And the same thing, if I took 30 and went through here, then if I went backwards through here, instead of adding 4, I'm going to do the inverse operation, which means I'm actually going to subtract 4. So 30 minus 4, which would equal 26. If I would regroup this, I'd get 26, right? So you can do the inverse operation by going backwards through the function machine, or the actual operation by going forward through the function machine. So those are just a couple of ways that we can use our function machine. Now, when you typically see these, you're going to have a function chart or a function table more than an actual function machine. So sometimes you have a function table that looks like this, and it tells us exactly what the rule is, and then all the information sometimes is all in this in section of our table. So that means we're going to take 10 and put it in through the function machine, which means we're actually going to do 10 plus 4, plus 24. So 10 plus 24, and again, don't ever be afraid to do side math. Side math is amazing. So 34. So I would write 34 as the out. So that's how it would come out of the machine. Next, we have 14, and we're going to add 24 to it. So 14 plus 24 equals 38. Okay. The next one, we've got 19 plus 24. So if we add this up, we get 13, 2, 3, 4, 43. I'm going to clear my space over here so I have enough space for the rest of my problems here. Then we have 25 plus 24, which gives us 49. And then our last one on here, 29 plus 24. So 1353. Okay, so that would be, this is just an example if you have all of the numbers here as your in number. So skip to page. Sometimes you have a combination of ins and outs. So when you have the outs, remember you're going to do the inverse operation. And when you have the ins, you're going to do the actual operation. So our first one, and sometimes what I do is I start down here with the ones that are the ins, and that's perfectly fine. You can skip around. So if we're talking about the ins, we are actually going to multiply. So multiplying by 7. 9 times 7 is 63. 12 times 7 is 84. Okay, so that would be if you have the regular operation. Now up here, we have to do the inverse operation. So instead of this being 7 times 7, if it were over here in the inbox, we're actually doing 7 divided by 7, which would be 1. So 1 would be your in, because if you think about it, 1 times 7 is 7. All right, so same thing. So we have 14 divided by 7, which would equal 2. Okay, and this last one here, we have 49 divided by 7, which would equal 7. Okay, so that's how we would fill this chart in if you have a combination of ins and outs on your function table. Now, the last example I have here has a couple of things. It has ins and outs. It has a couple of blanks here, and then it doesn't have our rule here. So we have to kind of be math detectives and figure out what our rule is. Now, our in and out, this first one is not going to help us a whole lot because anything times 0 is 0. So that's not going to help us. What it does help us with a little bit is it does help us kind of eliminate some of like the addition subtraction, because unless this was 0 plus 0 equals 0, which would be true, or 0 minus 0 equals 0, that still would be true, but it wouldn't help us apply to the other one. So this example up here is not going to help us a whole lot. So now if we look at this number, 4 and 12, this number is getting bigger, so we're either going to add or multiply. So if we test this out and think, okay, let's try addition. 4 plus 8 would be 12, right? So if we think about this, 4 plus 8 would be 12. So now we're going to test our theory here. 7 plus 8 would equal 15. So that's not going to really line up with this 21 here. So that means our addition is kind of out of there. Now let's test multiplication. 4 times 3 would equal 12, so that works. 7 times 3 does equal 21. So it looks like our rule is going to be times 3. Okay, so now what we need to do is apply this rule down here to our other numbers. So if we have 9 times 3, that's going to equal 27. So 27. And then for this one, we have our out, but we don't have our in. So this is going to be inverse, or the opposite operation. So 36 divided by 3, which is going to be 12. So our in over here is 12. Okay, so that is an introduction to finding the rule. All right, guys, thanks a lot.